to the Genesis Scottish Open. You were obviously our first winner of the co-sanctioned era here at the Renaissance Club, and it seems to be a tournament that's become a pretty important part of your schedule. Can you just tell us how much you enjoy coming back here?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's important for me to get acclimated to the time. Important to get used to the grass, the way the ball's rolling, all those good things. So it's definitely become a staple in my schedule.
And obviously you played here last year before going on to win the Open. I mean, how important is it to have that sort of solid couple of weeks in the UK?
I think it's massive, just across the board. Just hard to replicate any sort of tournament feel back home in the States where, you can hit an iron, the same club, a difference of 50 to 60 yards just based on how you hit it or what kind of wind you get. So there's only one way to get that done, and it's coming over here. So whether it's hitting drivers in crosswinds or getting used to a different bounce with your wedge or trying to hit it over those big lips that you guys have over here, it's a lot of fun to prepare that way.
Very good. Well, we hope it goes well this week. We will open up with Doug Ferguson over on the left. A familiar face.
Oh boy.
Pretty simple, Xander. Just given the unusual start to your year, where are you right now, and where's your confidence level in your game and everything else?
I'd say the belief is pretty good. I don't feel like I've given myself a lot of reasons to believe that I'm playing okay. It's been a pretty bad year, to be completely honest. So I'm definitely looking forward to. I feel like I haven't really tried to add on too many other events, and I've tried to just play to an incredible, get to an incredible place with less starts, which is really hard to do these days. So I'm trying to do a lot of things, and I think the best part of my game has probably been my mental, just fortitude or whatever you want to call it, just to try and stay positive and behave as if I am playing really well. But coming off a year like last year, getting hurt, and then coming back, obviously my expectations and my playing ability haven't really queued up very nicely.
What's the closest you've come to your great mental attitude being not so great?
Maybe Valspar, kind of early on in the mix. Just had a couple feelings of what am I doing out here, and Austin's like, we're 2 off the lead, so you should probably get it together. And I was like, that's a fair point. That's probably the closest where it wasn't really, like I said, I played incredibly well last year, and I was out for 6 weeks. First time I've ever been hurt. Didn't really know what to expect coming back, and my mind and the way I was playing golf of just look at the target and hit it at the target didn't really match up coming back at the beginning of the year, and it's still a work in progress. But I've been spoiled to play at a pretty high level for quite some time. So this has been a fun experience to try and get back on the horse.
Okay, we'll go to David down in front.
Xander, just going back to the injury, was it maybe a case of you not appreciating quite how serious the impact was going to be, or were you maybe even deliberately downplaying it because you didn't want to be looking for sympathy? Yeah,
I mean both, probably. I just try not to make a big deal out of it. Just for me personally, try to learn from it as much as possible, more from an expectation standpoint. But probably downplayed it in my own mind, being like, you'll be fine. You've been playing great golf. You just came off the best year of your career, and I've backed it up currently with the worst year of my career. So it's been a hot one, but like I said, I'm trying to do the best I can.
As you tried to turn it around, how much of a comfort level is it the fact that you haven't just won here, this venue, you've also won next week's tournament, albeit somewhere else? I mean, does that provide an extra layer of comfort? Yeah,
so there's some version of. I wish I could have come over here and played earlier in the year, to be honest. From a mental standpoint, something about playing over here relaxes me a little bit. I definitely try to play less golf swing. It looks like with the weather this weekend, it might be a little bit of golf swing, but normally, when it's blowing 25, 30, some wind and rain comes in, it's pretty hard to think about what you're trying to do with the golf club and your swing versus just trying to keep your hands dry. So there's something to it.
Right, we'll go to Brian in the front row.
Xander, good to see you once again. By winning the Open last year, how much has that changed your life? And in terms of being an Open champion, when you're going into any tournament nowadays, do you find there's more pressure on you?
I mean, I feel like for a little bit, I drank a little bit more than I normally do. That was probably the biggest change in my life that I had was, I was trending towards an alcoholic, but no, it's been awesome. I really don't feel like it's been a weird year for me, just from coming off of my, the year I had last year, into sort of what I did, just kind of disappearing and then playing bad, coming out of it. So any expectation I had of whatever I thought I was capable of doing, from a feel standpoint last year, has been sort of reset, and I am in full chase mode, like a kid.
Thanks for giving us a headline, first of all.
Yeah, please don't use that one. Yeah. A little context would be appreciated.
We'll do that. You mentioned you wish you'd come over a bit earlier. Is that something that in the future you might actually come to Europe a little bit more than you do at the moment?
I mean, if there's some way for me to guarantee playing in some sort of, difficult condition on links golf, it could be, yeah. I mean, I was just thinking sort of when I come over here, how I play, just coming off of 9 holes, just being a little bit more creative, sort of tapping into the other side of your brain. I was really beating up on myself for quite some time to try and get myself to play like I did last year, things of that nature, which isn't really, how you're supposed to do it, but, victim of that, and something about being here just kind of, you sort of take your hands off the wheel. That's how I played my best.
All right, we'll go to Ian at the back.
Xander, just sort of touching on that, you say, looking to go back to how you were playing last year. Is it as simple as that? Is it like looking at videos, what you were doing 12 months ago, and analysing those and trying to incorporate them? Or is it not possible to go back to how you were because of the nature of golf and the way that you developed?
I was going to say, if it was possible, I probably would have felt like almost won every tournament I've played in this year, but I've been pretty far from that. So, yeah, I've played pretty good golf from different places. I played really, really good golf from a certain place last year. Whether you call it attached to that or not, my mind was definitely there, and a lot of too much comparison, I guess, from this and that for myself versus just sort of, I don't know, getting back to some basic things. So a little bit, we're trying to dip into that sort of video pond last year and looking at what's going on and sort of what I'm doing poorly this year. And then the hardest part's just been sort of, like I said, taking the hands off the wheel and feel like I'm just, swinging and playing golf.
Okay, over on the right here.
Yeah, hi Xander. You mentioned earlier that it's probably been the toughest season of your career so far. I'm just curious, in terms of as a person and as a golfer, what's the biggest thing you've learned about yourself? Well, I knew I was stubborn.
Still, I don't know if I learned that bit, but yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think I'm, I don't feel too stressed. I'm very upset with how I've been playing. I've just really taken on this mindset of I looked at sort of how I would behave when things were going really well, and there's no need to be bipolar, so just make it as genuine as possible. If I'm shooting 80, I really don't want anyone to look at me on the course and be like, that kid's shooting 80. There's a few guys, and it doesn't matter. I don't really care if guys get mad or sad or smash clubs or whatever. This is more of a me thing, so. I just know when I'm playing really well, I behave a certain way and my mind's in a certain place, and I've just been trying to rinse and repeat, plug myself in that position. So, but yeah, the years, I still have a few tournaments this year, and we'll see what I can do. Yeah, I was reading earlier that there's a new partnership been announced with a Scottish clothing company that you've now become an ambassador for. I'm just wondering if you can give us a little bit of background on that and the concept behind it. What's that? Theo Health. No?
Oh?
It was announced online earlier.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Looking at my agent, I was like, I was working through that in such prototype. Yeah, lovely people doing it. Yeah, it's the sensors sort of to see. When I saw it, it was very prototype stage. I mean, we were like shaving bits of my leg off to put the sensors in to see sort of how Basically, it's more of a recovery look in terms of when you get hurt, how how your legs firing, how are certain parts of your body firing, and you use sensors to see sort of if there's a matchup on your left and right, and that's at least when I went through the prototype phase, we were looking at sort of my legs, and when I was doing a squat or a lunge or a single leg lunge or just the side to side comparison of sort of the output of each leg and if it's firing correctly. So the way it was explained to me was sort of if you're coming back from injury, it's a really unique and interesting way to recover. Sorry, that makes me look terrible. I was like, goodness.
So now we know that someone hasn't stolen your identity. We'll go over to Jamie.
Hi, Xander. You've talked about this week being a preparation for next week. What are the specifics of how that looks both today and maybe tomorrow, and how does that differ from a typical tour week?
I'd say flight's a big thing. A lot of it's just feeling comfortable with the window, maybe playing the ball a little bit further back, wedge grind, a little bit less bounce on a wedge, and then turf conditions. I mean, I think the clubs are, depending on how much it rains, the club's going through the ground a little bit differently than maybe back home. But other than that, and then the green speeds are a bit slower. So other than those few things, I'd say that'd be it.
Okay, we'll go to Bob.
You talked earlier about how last year was more just target and swing. And when you came back from the injury, are you a little surprised you just didn't pick that right back up? Or was there maybe even a possibility that you favored it some and got into some bad habits?
I'd say bad habits. It was still new. The way I was moving the club last year was still new. And then the bad place I got the club to this year was new. So I've played hit a lot of bad shots from a certain place, but it was home for me. I've been playing from that, call it short and laid off and shut. I've played a lot of golf from there. So I was, playing at home with it, missing my shots at home with it. So as soon as I come out to a tournament, I already know it's like my DNA. And so plug in sort of how I've overdone maybe the club getting too far across and then it got short, and this is a spot I've never played from. So, it's hard to create some sort of learning curve in a season that you're trying to get back into. So just a bad matchup for me.
What do you remember about Portrush, and how do you think it suits you and going back there next week?
It's I just remember it being the most rain I've ever, like the hardest rain I've ever played in. Almost to where you're like, wow, we're still golfing. That's sort of what I remember. But I remember a few holes, not anyone specifically, but like I said, I always enjoy the challenge. So looking forward to relearning the course.
Bob, if you just pass back to Rex, please.
Xander, are there any lingering effects from the injury, or 100%?
Yeah, I mean, I feel 100%. There's definitely stuff we look out for to make sure, just in terms of T-spine mobility, things of that nature, to make sure I'm moving good. So, but I'd say I feel 100%.
And I know this can be a little esoteric, but is there one part of your game that you feel like you need to, from last year to this year, is different?
I mean, it's just bad across the board. So, I mean, I guess no would be, there's a lot of parts. There isn't just one.
Okay, back to the front.
Xander, you know that we always like to talk about the Ryder Cup on this side of the Atlantic, and I think
Sure.
in this room last year...
We like talking about it back in the States, too.
you told us last year that you wanted some of the player functions cut back. It's still up in the air, but how would you feel about a playing captain? Do you think a playing captain's possible if that's the route Keegan goes down?
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's earning it. If you ask him, he's playing the best golf of his career. We just want our best 12 playing. I think that's sort of, what it really comes down to. So he is just flying up that qualifying, that standings leaderboard. And would I be surprised if he got into the top 6 and just wasn't even a conversation anymore? I don't think I'd be very surprised. I don't think he would either. But if he doesn't, it's going to be a fun situation for himself. But I think he's surrounded himself with really good vice captains, and which I don't think he's going to make a decision he regrets.
Do you see any obstacles if he was a playing captain?
I mean, you'd have to sort of pass some responsibility, just because you got to prepare and practice and get your head in the right place. So it would probably be some sort of co-captaincy. I mean, it wouldn't be that, but on paper he'd still be. But at the end of the day, they're big shoes to fill, and to do it all alone would be really difficult, even if he wasn't playing.
Staying in the front with Craig.
Hi, Xander. You've touched on obviously the reasons why and the injury and stuff, but golf's very fickle and very forgetful. And at the end of last year, you're the man. You've got 2 majors. You're sort of almost top dog. The start of this year it was Rory this, Rory that, deservedly so. Then it's been Scotty Scheffler this, Scotty Scheffler that.
We're used to that though, so.
Not ego, but just competitive fire. How much do you want to be in that conversation again? Don't forget about me. I'm one of these guys.
I mean, it's not. I don't go to bed at night saying like, please talk about me. It was nice to see my photo up by the toilet. That was heartwarming. summed up how I feel about what's going on right now. I actually chuckled when I saw that one. But no, I don't play for those reasons. I really just want to play good golf. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty content with myself. I definitely feel happy when I'm away from frustrated, but in general happy. What would make me really happy is if I can just play freely. I think the obstacles of trying to play really good golf and then playing bad golf and then just fiddling all day long is really what drives me nuts. It's why we love the game, but it's what's driving me crazy. So if I can just kind of get out of my own way, that would be the thing that would make me happiest right now, more than even winning a tournament. That would just be the result.
All right, and I think last one with Doug.
You mentioned you were in chase mode. What exactly are you chasing?
I mean, just playoffs, trying to get into some sort of contention to try and feel something again, other than upset. I think I've just been angry, ish.
Angry.
That's been the biggest emotion of just, this is frustrating versus, why we love playing is to be in contention and kind of see what you can do. But, that part's been humbling. So, it's a battle, and, I'm going to try and win it.
You talk about belief. Do you believe you can win this week? Is that what belief is like for you?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I haven't really showed a lot of signs, but when I'm playing really well, I believe I can win every tournament, and it shouldn't. That's like a separate belief. It shouldn't be too attached to sort of how you're playing. I think that's just how your mentality should be. So, I'm going to hang my hat on that one. I'm dying on that hill, Doug.
Die away. One more, because you mentioned Scotty a minute ago. With what he's done in terms of the world ranking, I'm sure everyone has aspired to be number one at some point. Is that something you just kind of put aside for now?
Yeah, I mean,
everyone else.
Yeah, I remember talking about some sort of mountain and climbing up it. I mean, this is a steep mountain now. Yeah, it's. I was really concerned about it when I was, firing at a high level, and I feel like I could kind of win every week. And right now, I'm just, like I said, small victories is where I'm battling. If we can move my photo away from the toilet, that'd be awesome. I'm just kidding. You can leave it there for the next 10 years. No, I'm just, yeah. If I can play 72 holes without fiddling with my golf swing this week, that'd be a massive win. And wherever I finish, that'd be a good place for me to get to before I play next week.
Write headlines. Would you go with alcoholism or getting in the toilet?
Well, I mean, the writers are pretty creative over here, so we'll see what you got, Doug.
All right.